Coming up, We're No Damn Experts does true crime. We're talking with Great Falls native Dr. Clem Pellett about his journey in uncovering his grandfather's murderer. Hear about his book, Murder on Montana's Highline, and an upcoming major motion picture, Pellett. That's all coming up on this episode of We're No Damn Experts.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You want to get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you want to go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth, and we're No Damn Experts.
Today, Shannon, we have something special.
We sure do. I'm really excited about this conversation, and I so wish we could be here in person with him, but he is on a very busy world tour right now.
Press junket,
yes,
if you will.
Which we'll get into. But we have the man, the myth, and the legend, Clem Pellett, joining us today on the line for our podcast. Hi, Clem.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
We are great.
We're fantastic, and I'm so excited to visit with you. I know you've got to spend a lot more time with Shannon than I, but for a baseline understanding, tell us about who you are and why you're such a big dang deal.
Okay, first off, I grew up, I was raised in Great Falls. Go Rustlers. And I was actually, this is how old I am. I was the first class to go all 3 years through CMR. So,
Hey.
yes, so I'm from Great Falls, and I just so darn proud of being a Montanan. I can hardly not burst. And I just happened to find some evidence about a family secret in 2009. Ooh. And it turns out it was the murder of my grandfather. And it surprised the heck out of me.
Yeah, Clem, I'm going to stop you right there. Did you know your grandfather had been murdered before 2009?
Nope, very vague. My dad. Oh. Okay, here. Let me tell you. It was the three of us. Okay. My dad, my mom, and me. And my dad's mantra was: the more family, the more problems. So we stuck it. Yeah. So I grew up as an only child.
Okay.
In the biggest way possible. I didn't have. I'm serious. I didn't have extended family on either side.
Huh.
And so, frankly. When I started reading and when I stumbled over this evidence while I was recovering from cancer surgery, by the way, in 2009, I looked at it and I said, oh my gosh, this is about my grandfather's murder. And then I started putting out some inquiries, and the internet was still pretty new then. And you still got to all the fact squelching and all that stuff. And that's what kicked it all off. And frankly, to tell you how devoid I was from the family I currently have, I wasn't even sure my grandfather's first name when I started this.
Oh my.
A lot has changed.
So just for inquiring minds, how old was your dad when your grandfather passed away?
Probably around 25.
Oh, okay. So
and go ahead.
So he was kind of out on his own?
Yes. Yeah. He was married. Well, that's another story. He was married. He was about to go to dental school, and he was working the summer up on the Highline, as I found out, as the Pellett family did in the oil fields.
Okay.
And he was cleaning out an oil storage container. It caught on fire. And he was burned from head to toe, and he damn near died.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
He could not go to dental school, so he had to postpone a year. And so that was, part of it. As an interesting fact, I followed my father into dental school.
I was going to say, you
I
are
had an
retired
instructor.
from that.
I went on to be an oral surgeon, but But and when I was in dental school, I had an instructor walk up to me and say, "You're Clem Pellett, right?" I said, "Yeah." Which I thought, "Oh hell, I'm in trouble now." And he said, "No. Do you know that I'm the guy that replaced your father in our dental class?" And I said, "I'll be darned."
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that's kind of interesting.
So
So
then
yes, I hate. Yeah, go ahead.
your grandfather then was in Shelby as well, working in the oil fields, and that's how your
That's correct.
dad kind of followed in that path. Okay.
That's correct. That's right. See, my grandfather was murdered 2 years before I was born.
Okay.
So I didn't know my grandfather. My dad never told stories about my grandfather. And not to be redundant, I wasn't sure of his first name.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But
So you
because the murder, go ahead.
no, so you happen upon this piece of interesting evidence in 2009 that you have
Right.
a grandfather that's been murdered, and you're like, huh,
Correct.
what happens next?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So what? So I looked at it, kind of stared at it, and what it was a series of newspaper clippings. It was at the bottom of my mother's memorabilia box. She had recently
Okay.
passed away, and I started looking through it. And so I looked at it, and then all of a sudden there was this name on the top, Frank Dryman. And that's why I say I went to the internet, I typed in that name, I had never heard it, and bam, up pops the Montana Parole Board. And I started looking down what was called the absconder list, or those who have jumped parole. And he was all the way at the bottom because he'd been gone the longest and there was no picture of him.
Huh.
But he'd been gone for almost 40 years. And that, of course, piqued my interest. And then it just took off.
And
And
he was the
I
one who
kept
had been
following every clue.
convicted of your grandfather's murder.
He was convicted of it, and then, well, I found out there was quite a fight over the death penalty during the 1950s up on the High Line in Montana. Now, for those who don't know where the High Line is, Montana, of course, is just south of the border of Canada, and just on the other side, on the U.S. side of the border, running about 2/3 of the state along Highway 2, going east to west, is an area known as the High Line.
The best
And
place.
to everybody around.
That was a fantastic
good spot.
description of the High Line. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Almost like you'd said it before.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So this
So,
journey, you found all these clippings about Frank Dryman.
That's right. So then I sent out information or inquiries to the Montana Parole Board, and then also to the Montana Historic Society.
Okay.
And I never did hear back from the Montana Parole Board, but the Montana Historic Society, about a week later, via snail mail, sent me a 4-page letter, and bottom gist of it was this was a huge case at the time. It was a fight over the death penalty, and it garnered national news. And that was on Walter Winchell had it on his radio show. It was followed by a lot of people, but it attracted the Communist Party to come up to Shelby, Montana,
My
and
goodness.
to defend this murderer, because at the time, 1950s, remember, Cold War, Red Scare era, McCarthy era. And they considered the death penalty the corrupt core of capitalism. And that's why they came to his defense.
I would
And
not
there you
ever
go.
be like, oh, the communists are the ones that are against the death penalty.
I know.
Well,
I know, and
especially
it's,
at that time.
Right.
I mean, because in
Yeah.
America, they were just evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, the only good red's a dead one.
Yeah.
And there's a red under every bed. And I mean, it was a very, there was a lot of paranoia in the country at that time.
A tumultuous time, especially for that party in our country.
Oh yeah,
So clearly he ends up in prison at some time and then ends up on parole.
Well, so now the Communist Party comes in.
Okay.
So it was a brutal murder, brutal murder. He shot my grandfather in the back 7 times
Oh my gosh.
as he was running away from him. It's a long story that this time doesn't permit, but why all happened. But that is what happened. And then it just got to be a big fight over the insanity plea and the death penalty. And it took 4 years and 3 trials, and he was sentenced to hang 2 times. Finally, the 3rd time, he was sentenced to life in prison, but it wouldn't be for 40 years. Remember, this is 1951. It wouldn't be for 40 years that in Montana there'd be life in prison without parole. There was just simply life in prison, and in which that was usually 15 years. And so
Oh.
he started to serve his 15 years, but then powers that be, he got out in 13 years.
Oh.
And he went on parole, and then he
Disappeared.
absconded about 18 months later, and he was into the wind until I came along 40 years later.
Aha.
So, Clem, if people who want to know more about this story are really going to have an opportunity to do that because you did what? Did you create
Oh my gosh.
a video production?
You can't believe this. This is just, I can't tell you. You've got little old Clem from Montana. Okay. So I am, so I start gathering all this information, and I've got 3-ring binders. My office is full.
Are you doing this like as a full-time job or in the evenings after you've done some oral surgery?
Excellent. That's right. I started off doing it in between patients.
Oh my gosh.
And then all of a sudden, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, I've got my whole home office is stacked with stacks of paper. And I literally, I didn't have a very big office at the time.
Please tell me
one
you
wall
had
of my office.
Yeah, please tell me
Go
it
ahead.
was like a billboard with pictures
Ooh,
and
like
the red
the crime
string.
scene, like the
It
tape
was
connecting
really close
everything.
to that.
Oh, perfect.
Really close. Really, it was a whole series of sticky notes that ended up being wallpaper. So anyway, so that's how it all started. And then I tried my hand at writing articles.
Okay.
I thought, well, okay, this might be interesting, and I roundly got turned down. I just didn't pay enough attention in English class.
Oh, me neither, Clem.
Yeah, well, that kind of happens. But the next step was just like anything that happens in life, is one friend told another friend about this story I was doing. And it turns out that it bumped into a gentleman by the name of Fred Fontana.
Okay,
Yeah,
wait.
Fred Fontana, and he's a producer, director, and he was a Hollywood type. But Fred Fontana came up to Montana, and we developed a script, and a quick 8 years later, we finally got a film done. It's a feature film. It's called Pellett, and it should be out probably in the fall, is my guess.
Okay. And before we get to, I just want to tease the fact that we're digging into not even skimming the top
Right,
of
we're
this
about an
story.
inch deep in the soil on this one.
But there's going to be an opportunity for people to immerse themselves in this story. So you're doing research, you've got your binder, you're learning things. When did you decide you were going? I mean, there's one thing to kind of trace your lineage, but there's a whole nother thing to do what you did, which is bring your...
Yes, bring it to this. The best way I can describe this is that as I kept finding information, which, by the way, so I would be in between patients, and I find some interesting morsel as I'm reading all this stuff. I'd go in, we would have the patient under anesthesia, and then I would tell my staff, guess what I found? And so anyway, but it just kept building. And the only way I can describe this is that uh, when I found out that he was a fugitive, and as I found out that my grandfather was murdered, shot in the back, and then I additionally found out that his memory and my family's memory was completely erased from the process. During all of this, all the focus was on the defense, all the focus was on the perpetrator, and none of it was on my grandfather. And that spurred me on. I thought, no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And so I just kept going. And all I can tell you is I'm not a big spiritual person, but something continued to draw me into the story. It isn't like I made the story kind of pulled me along as I kept finding things.
Well, I would have to think with as much press that was given to the person who committed the act, there's not a bunch that you're learning about your grandfather at this point, other than that he's been murdered. You don't know what type of guy he is. You don't know.
Because you're just learning about him in general.
That's right. That's right. And as I was doing this, and I'm a big history buff, so I was finding out a lot about Montana in the 1950s and the Red Scare and how people up on the High Line would have do something like doorbelling against the Reds. And so at 5 o'clock in the evening, everybody would step out on their porch, open their front door, and doorbell for about 3 or 4 minutes. And
By
that was
doorbell,
just kind of
do you
a
just
unity
mean they
thing.
ring their own doorbell?
They rang their own doorbell.
Okay.
And it was across these little communities. So I mean, that's how tight it was. But it was all these interesting things that found out about it. And my wife kept telling me, she said, wait a minute. Number one, you know that there's a family out there that you've never met. And I said, yeah, that's true. And she said, well, I don't understand why you don't want to meet him. I said, no, because my father, when the murder happened, he was completely cleaved off of the family, cleaved himself off of the family. There were a lot of things that happened as a stress under the losing the patriarch, and that was it. And I was never to contact the Pellets, and that was all there was to it. And so that was kind of cut and dry, even though he died when I was 14. And now, remember, I'm 56 right now when I'm doing this, but I just honored what he said. And so I just didn't do anything. So,
Clem, I'm going to ask you to back up and educate us on why on earth people would doorbell for 3 minutes by ringing their own. What was the purpose of that? Is if you were a communist, you wouldn't know to do the doorbelling? Like, what was it going to ward off the communist spirit?
It was a sense of, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, no. It was a sense of unity. It was a sense of community.
Oh, okay.
It was a sense of, okay, we're all in it, all together. We're all for one and one for all. And that was, and then would just come out, that type of thing would come out in little ways, and the doorbelling was one of them.
Okay.
So Rebecca's family, Clem, is from the High Line, and Rebecca, I want you to go ask your family now if they participated in this.
Yeah, we weren't.
Oh, no, I absolutely remember this.
We weren't on the High Line
then.
at
that point. Okay. Yeah. Your family wasn't there. Oh, you were still in Minnesota, or your family was still in Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah, my parents would have just been graduating.
Yeah.
Being born.
Yeah. But your grandparents would have been in Minnesota. Okay. Yeah. Well, never mind then.
I know nothing about the doorbelling. I'm no expert on that. So, okay, thank you for clearing up doorbelling for us, because I thought
no problem.
Thought there might be a new campaign that we could launch here, like
more nugget in history there.
Okay, so you start. Do you ever contact the Pellett family to learn more about your grandfather?
I have now.
Okay,
but I captured him. So when he was captured, so I ended up. And trust me, everybody, I just kept searching and searching, and it finally boiled down to, okay, I knew this guy was out there. I didn't know if he was dead, and I just find a headstone, or did he start a family, take up golf? I don't know what he did, but I just kept having a drive to find out what happened to the guy. But when I finally found him, which I have to give a little pitch here now for I've got a book coming out tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
by the
Well
way,
yes.
done.
For
May
listeners,
20th.
May 20th. So,
Yeah,
Clem, your
May
episode will
20th.
be out this Friday. So, just a couple days past. So, everyone, the book
Oh,
is
just past that.
available.
It's going to be.
Your book is available
Yes,
now.
it is. It's called Murder on the High Line. Anyway, all of this is very well documented if you really want
Tells
to get
your
into it.
journey. Tells your personal
It
journey in
tells my
this.
journey
Okay.
and how I went through all this. But anyway, when I found him, the media explosion is hard to explain.
I can't even imagine.
It started local. And then the Montana Parole Board put out a press release that said I had captured the longest standing absconder fugitive in Montana history.
Woo!
With your bare hands.
Like,
And
did you
how
just
about
bust
that?
in the door and put the handcuffs on him?
God,
And
no. Please, nice job there. No, man, I'm, I tracked him down to Arizona,
okay.
but I didn't track him any further than that. But I knew I was getting close, and through a series of events, I ended up hiring a private investigator because I did not want to be the guy to knock on the door and say, "Oh, excuse me, by the way,
Hi,
do you happen to be the guy that murdered my grandfather?" So,
Yeah.
no, I didn't. No.
And we want to
Yeah,
leave
no,
a
I'm,
little so
yeah.
people will read the book and watch the movie, right? So we don't want to give away all the.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun process. Although I will have to say, I started this in 2009. It's only coming out now. Just do the math.
That's a
I've been
long
working at
time.
this for a long time,
Yeah.
15, 16 years. And but I want to tell you, it's been quite the journey of discovery. It's been a little, I can't say a lot of fun, but it's been very enlightening and very rewarding, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
So just to reiterate, the book that is out now because of when this will air is
That's
available,
fine.
and it's your journey on finding out all of this about your family. And then the
That's
movie
right.
going to come out later this fall, and that's going to be more
Right.
about the story of what happened to your grandfather. Does it include a lot of the you finding? Is that a good
Yes.
portion of the movie?
Yes.
So we're going to span some decades in the movie?
Yes, we
Okay,
are.
okay.
Absolutely. The best way to describe this, the movie is the main meal. My book, you can either do as an appetizer or dessert.
Perfect.
So there are two different forms of media, two different ways of telling. There's a lot more detail that is actually written down in the book, but then there's a lot of visual that just takes care of that worded detail in the movie. And so it's two. They're very complementary. You read the book and watch the movie, or watch the movie and read the book. You will then have a very complete, actually fairly in-depth look at that era, what happened during that time, and how it affected myself, my family, and of course now it's got a nice, good feeling, happy ending, because when I captured this murderer, and it was all over the world, I might add. I got calls from Germany, I got calls from Italy, I'm still getting emails from the UK. Anyway, it's got a lot. But when I captured him, and my family reached out to me that I had never met, and on the day we drove from Seattle to Shelby, and on that day, when I met everybody, I went from an only child with no extended family to having literally hundreds, because on the day that my grandfather was murdered, he was the father of 6.
Oh my
and
gosh.
the grandfather of 16.
Oh my gosh, Clem.
1951.
That
So
is
do
so
the
cool.
math.
That is
It
amazing.
is. It's a great ending. The story's great.
And then,
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. With that many people, I'm meeting dozens and dozens of wonderful people, but there's a clinker here and there.
oh yeah,
So
my
anyway.
family's full of clinkers, so I get that, Clem. They're all over the place.
Yeah, well, this family thing's kind of brand new to me. So yeah, you're right, exactly.
Do people now offer or want you to consult them on how they can track down absconders or other, like Clem can do it? He'll give me some pointers.
Really it is. That's what I tell people right now. If little old Clem from Montana can push this and do this, anybody can do it. But you have to be dedicated to it. I actually went and got a private investigator certificate from Boston University.
Ooh.
And right. Magnum PI's got nothing over Clem.
I'm so excited about this. Hire Clem to track down your people.
Yeah. So, but yes, I have had people do that, and I'm brand new into this. Right now, my focus is on the literary portion, Murder on the High Line, and then the movie Pellett, and all that. So, but I've got great contacts in the private investigator community. And so I have referred them on.
And the film industry,
Yeah.
because let's circle back to Fred Fontana.
Oh my God, what a great guy! This guy's got a heart of gold. He's been,
So
he's done movies, TV, everything.
You just meet up with him, and you're like, "I got this idea," and he's like, "Sounds like a winner, Clem." Is that what happened, or did you have to convince him a little bit further?
Oh no. So. Word got out that I had this story, and a documentary company came in and did a documentary. It was on A&E biography. It's called "The Kid with the Hollywood Haircut."
Oh.
And then that aired. In fact, that's another one. So it went print, it went internationally, and this documentary went internationally.
And that documentary, Clem, real quick, the Hollywood haircut thing is what they called Frank Dryman, right? So again, that name was more focused on Frank.
That's correct. The Hollywood haircut. One of the witnesses described the young man that got in my grandfather's car to hitchhike as wearing his hair like they do in Hollywood, because remember, in the 50s, up on the High Line, they were flat top haircuts.
Yes, they were.
But then you've got, James Dean and Elvis Presley, and their long hair and
long,
the ducktail,
flowing
and the
locks.
Yes, and all that. Yeah, and so he was described, and he was actually captured because of that long hair, by the way.
Oh,
he didn't even cut his hair.
Nope. And so anyway, so that's what that is. But I've to get back to where I was going is, so here I am.
You got the documentary. You've got these articles.
I've got this education. I spent 30 years practicing oral and maxillofacial surgery. Science guy.
Yeah.
Okay. I start doing this. All of a sudden, I'm talking like a writer. I've written 2,000 words here, and I've done, all this kind of stuff. And I'm worried about tenses, for crying out loud. and then, all of a sudden, I meet private investigators, and they have their own language.
Yeah.
And then I meet Hollywood, and they have their own language. I mean, this is just opened up this whole new world of looking at the world from this side, and then I take a giant step right and I look from the world from another side. And so it's been very enlightening that way.
And so you and Fred collectively wrote the screenplay for this movie, or?
That's correct. That's correct. So once this documentary aired, then I had a bunch of screenwriters get in touch with me. But I wasn't comfortable with the way they were talking about it. I was very adamant. We were not going to do Deliverance or do something goofy. Come on, I'm from the High Line now too, so I don't want any of that kind of stuff going on. And so I didn't want any of that. And so it took about 5 years. And then a friend of a friend of a friend introduced me to Fred. I sent him the material. He called me 2 days later. We had a 45-minute telephone conversation, and he hit every theme, every nuance that I had been going over for years before. He captured it immediately. And so then a script was born.
So you and Fred's like, yeah, let's make a movie. And Fred's like, I've got all this money, and Hollywood just throws money at these kind of projects. Let's get it done. Is that right, Fred?
Well, aren't you just the cutest thing? No, that is not how it happened. Trust me. So we go through and we start pitching this thing, and trying to get money out of New York, and and all these things. And the first question, the business of Hollywood, it isn't like, hey, let's make a movie, and you go and you
It's a
hire
great story.
new. Yeah, yeah. They could almost care less about the story. So they're just interested in how much money they're going to make.
Yeah.
And part of that is, as I found out, our film credits. So we would approach someone, and they would say, oh, great, sounds like a good story. We've read your materials. So where do you want to film it? Oh, absolutely. We have to film in Montana. I mean, we are being authentic. We're using actually quotes from the trial testimony, quotes from interviews I had with primary witnesses. And then I said, and Shelby hasn't changed a bit since the 1950s. We can film this authentically. And then they asked, oh, well, what's the film credit situation in Montana? And at that time, before 2018, our answer was 0. And they said, well, have a nice day.
Yeah.
And so we, Fred in particular, really pushed and helped with the original film credit bill. I believe it was 2018 that came through. And so we were still in production trying to find money. And meantime, there's some good film credits, and along comes a very big production called Yellowstone.
Oh, I don't know if we've ever heard of that.
I know, isn't that weird? Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love Yellowstone. They put Montana on the map. It's a fantasy, everybody. Montana's just as beautiful as you see on the scene. The story is a fantasy, as opposed to my story, which is completely true. But I digress. Anyway. They come in, and we're a teeny tiny, itty bitty budget film. I mean, we're, doing this and that, although we have, some fairly big stars in the film, as it turned out. But there was only a certain amount of money per year that Montana would grant tax credits. And guess who soaked those babies up?
Yellowstone.
And then it was, if and Yellowstone sucked up everything available for that 12-month period, but then in the original bill, they were able to then extend it into additional years. So they were sucking up money from one year to the next. And finally, we came up with some money. And they said, well, that's very nice. And isn't that great? And we're so happy you're going to do this. But you won't get your film credits until 2029.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man.
And so, And now the other caveat, and this is as far as I'm going to go with the film credit thing, because I'm almost over my skis already. But here's how it works. The state doesn't really pay any money to this. What happens is they say, okay, you spent $1,000 that qualifies in the state of Montana. So here's your $1,000 Montana tax credit. But I'm Yellowstone. I don't live in Montana, and therefore I don't have taxes in Montana. So Montana tax credit doesn't do me any good. So now you go to the secondary market, and you put it out to the market, and you say, okay, I've got $1,000 of tax credit for Montana. And then a Montana business comes in and says, great, I will give you $900 for that tax credit. And so then you actually have a secondary market to sell your tax credit.
Huh.
So
That's a whole other
that's how
world,
it
isn't
works.
it?
Well, it is. It's a whole other world. Plus, of course, there's brokers in there with brokers' fees.
Oh
Good
man.
grief.
So it's quite the education, but that's as deep as I'm going to go into it. The Montana Film Coalition can really give you the ins and outs of it, but that's just my novice understanding of it.
Well, that's pretty interesting
Mm-hmm.
understanding. And even with all of that, you still somehow get the money to make this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and just exciting as
Wonder.
hell. I mean, it's incredible. And okay, so I was an oral surgeon. I ran a clinic. I did all this stuff. I love multitasking. It's just there's all kinds of stuff going on. Well, man, if you want to be a multitasker, get on a film crew.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, oh my God, there's this and now this disaster's happened and we take care of this and that. And I was fortunate enough to make just wonderful friendships and acquaintances up on the High Line. And oh my gosh, Shelby and Cutbank and Haver and everybody just, oh my gosh, they want to do this. And I said, well, my dad and I, by the way, that was one of the father-son things we did is we restored old cars.
Oh.
And so, which, by the way, in Great Falls, there's a guy named Fritz, Fritz
Yep,
Auto Repair.
Fritz's Auto.
He's got the best damn collection. Anyway, he was
Yeah.
wonderful in this whole film. And so I get to get into the Montana, vintage car community now. And I'm finding all these guys just exciting for me. And it's, anyway, so I got to be kind of what they call the vintage car wrangler for the film. So if they needed 51 through 55 trucks, sedans, Jeeps, you name it, and put it on Main Street, Shelby, to make it look like it was back then, then I contacted the owners who were only too willing, and they were so much fun.
Wow.
Anyway, so that was part of what I did on the film.
And did you
Also, I'll say one more thing.
Okay.
Also, I was in the film.
I was just
got
gonna
an
ask.
acting credit.
Before
I got an
before
acting credit.
before you spill that, because that was my question. Who plays Clem Pellett in this movie?
Oh, his name is Lee Torgerson. Wonderful guy. He was in Wayne's World. He's been in all over the kids. People younger than me, 72, know him pretty well. I didn't know him at all until I met him. And he's nice. Hell, we're still talking. I mean, he's just a great guy.
So
But he, one of his claims to fame was he's in the back seat of Wayne's World when they do the Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, that's a
scene.
pretty good scene.
So he's in that, yeah. So anyway, yeah.
So Clem, you let us know that you did get to be an actor. What role did you play in the movie?
I didn't
played. Okay. So there are protagonists and there's antagonists in any story. So the antagonists are the communists and the homegrown communists, by the way, from Montana.
Yeah.
And there was a very activist reporter from Helena named Gretchen, and she was married to Harry. And she was very big on getting the Communist Party here to defend him. And anyway, she was married to Harry, and I play Harry.
Oh my!
So you're on the other side of this in the movie.
I'm on the other side.
You're part of the Communist Party. I did not see
betcha.
that. I didn't see that twist coming.
Oh.
Yeah, so there you go. So I got to do it. In fact, I got to spend a day or so with Lindsay Wagner. Now, again, I'm 72. Lindsay Wagner is like a Farrah Fawcett. I mean, she was gigantic.
Original Wonder Woman, right?
Correct. From the Bionic. No, not the Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Bionic Woman.
Bionic.
I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah, right. Yeah, me too. I did. Yeah. And so anyway, So I got to play opposite her.
Okay.
Now I've had the occasion to see the rough cut. See, there's another term, the rough cut of the film, and I'm on there. Boy, if you blink, I'm not there very long. So,
But Clem,
so look real careful.
okay, is it enough time that you've been on? Are you eligible to get your Screen Actors Guild card?
Not the card, but I can. The SAG Screen Actors Guild invited me to join,
Ooh.
and I actually got scale. I got scale for my. I think I was in 2 scenes. I think I said a total of 7 words.
Ooh.
And
yeah,
I won't tell you
speaking
how much
parts.
I made,
That's
but
tons.
I will have to say that I wish I would have done that instead of oral surgery.
Oh.
So anyway, yeah. So it's
So there's
so
a new
actually,
career for
actually-
you.
So there's a new career.
Oh yeah, yeah. The phone's just ringing off the hook. Yeah,
well,
that's
you
now,
are the
yeah.
man now of many talents.
Yeah.
The resume of being an oral surgeon
Yeah.
and a private
In
investigator
the last 10
and
years,
an
you've
actor.
really
What the
expanded
heck?
that.
Writer, author.
Yeah.
Yeah. My
Good
goodness.
Lord.
Yeah. Well, it's.
Is there anything you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
do, Clem? Is there
Oh,
automotive restore?
I think it would be oh my God, that'd be such a long list that we'd be here for weeks.
So Clem, I do want to ask you. We had Shelley Walker on our podcast as well a few months back, and we talked to her some about. Of course, she's a woman of many artistic talents, but talked to her about doing set design and things for Pellett. So did you?
You should see the paintings she does. Wow.
Yeah, she's incredible.
I think I might have one of her originals.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
You had it before you knew knew her?
No, that I just bought at a fundraising auction.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was going to take a picture and bring it to Shannon and see if it's the same person.
The same Shelley.
Yeah.
So did you worked with Shelley quite a bit then, I imagine, with the cars and things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
the cars and getting, she is just such a woman of so many talents. I mean, she's amazing. She looked in. So we would scout locations. And so we look at places all around Shelby. You have to remember too, when you have a crew, we had a crew maybe at the most, maybe 50, maybe not quite, but 50 people. And so you try to keep all the shooting very confined, because if you move even from Shelby to Fort Benton, you've got to, pack everything up, get everything back in a new hotel. It's costly to move a whole crew. And so we tried to do as much in Shelby as we could. And one of those things was a scene that had to be a jail.
Oh.
And she just created a 1950s jail out of a old auto body shop.
Oh, wow.
And it's just incredible. Oh yeah, the sheriff's office, the whole thing. And gathered, I got some old radios and stuff like that. I did very little. But I mean, and she's out there pounding nails and schlepping this and schlepping that. Oh no, she's terrific personality. I mean, I can't say enough about Shelley. She's just really a lot of fun, and it's a great. She made the production a lot. Well, whole damn crew was.
Yeah.
We just, because we were so small, we really got to know each other, and by the way, a very large percentage, I think approaching 75, 80% is Montana. This is a Montana or a story filmed in Montana by Montana crews, Montana actors.
Awesome.
Mhm.
I mean, this is authentic, right down to using the actual murder weapon that killed my grandfather.
Holy criminy.
I don't think I knew that part. Wow.
How did you get that? Was that in evidence somewhere?
Oh, it's a story. It's a video, and
okay. Do you reveal that in like how you find the murder weapon in the movie, or is that in your book?
That's in my book.
Oh, there we go. There's a teaser.
It's a family. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, and there's a bunch of that little stuff in it. And by the way, it's a quick read. It's not. Yeah, it's a quick read, and Yeah, I mean, who would have believed that, I would have ever written a book, but I had such encouragement from a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's just so many people to thank. It again, that would take a long time, but
So we
Susan
know,
Fox is one of them. So
yeah, so we know you
go
filmed in
ahead.
Shelby, and because I know who
Yeah,
Shannon is, I know you filmed here in Great Falls. Where were some of your other
yeah.
Montana filming locations?
We did filming in Cut Bank at the Big Sky Cafe.
Okay.
And let's see, where else? Most of it was either Shelby or the surrounding area of Shelby.
Okay.
As you know, the High Line is just the prairie, and so you
Right.
can just get these huge, expansive shots. But yeah, and the Great Falls or the Cascade County Courthouse is so perfect. It's just so vintage, and so like I say, it's a very authentic film. I mean, like I say, I would say over 50% of the dialogue is from actual quotes of what actually occurred. I mean, were actually said,
I think that's the
and
neatest
so it's
part
just
of
very
a.
authentic.
I think that's the neatest
Very
part of a
authentic.
movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you get to go
Yeah,
back and
yeah,
see something that was in the court, and then the film says the same thing, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they must have done their research,
Right? Yeah, this is legit.
yeah.
Clem, I want to
Yeah, well,
ask
I'm a
you.
slow researcher.
I want to
Go ahead.
ask you because you got to be on set. Of course, you helped write this. You were a producer on this, but you got to be on set. And first off, I got to watch the relationship that you had with the crew, which was just so fun. But also, you got to be on set watching your story, and
Oh,
you watched Lee play you and your story come to life in
yeah.
front of you. What was that like watching these scenes?
Oh, I can't.
I
It was
gotta think
like,
you're gonna critique someone like I wouldn't have walked that way.
oh no, no,
Oh,
because a
okay.
lot of it was it was okay. So we're on set.
Yep.
Okay, so they're saying, okay, rehearsal, blah, blah, blah. And they say, okay, Clem. And so I turn and look. Well, they were actually calling Reed, the guy, or Lee, who was going to play me. So, well, okay. And then the scenes that particularly were poignant to me were the scenes that Cindy and I, my wife Cindy and I, actually had discussions, the real discussions about while I was investigating. And so I don't want to say it was out of body experience, but it was almost like I had taken flight and I was hovering over it and kind of looking down on when it actually happened.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was a little surreal, but they did it so well, and so many actors. I would be standing there, minding my own business, trying to stay out of the way most of the time on set, but these actors would come up to me and say, "Okay, now how did you do this? And how
Oh
would
yeah.
Brandon have done this? And how and all that?" And they listened to me. And I mean, because I'm telling them my story, but I kept telling them. I said, "Now, but I mean, that's how it actually happened. But if it isn't going to attract an audience, play it like you want to play it." But they didn't. They just stuck to the story and really stuck to the nuances and all that of in voice inflections and things. They just stuck to it.
Well, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
When you were a little boy, did you ever think, "Oh, when they make a movie about me, this is the guy I want to play me"? And then you
Well, let's just put it this way. Let's just put it this way. When I grew up, I had a wonderful childhood. But when I grew up, I was, how should we say this delicately? I was a big boy. I was husky, as
oh,
they said back then. And I had a flat top haircut. I
As you
had
do.
freckles everywhere. And my name was Clem, which was in the era of Clem Cadiddlehopper or Clementine or any of that. So no,
never had that
Clem,
dream.
no, there was not, there weren't big things on the horizon for growing up Clem, trust me.
Little baby Clem didn't
Yeah.
dream of I
No.
I shouldn't have these dreams, but for me, one day Sandra Bullock's going to be like, "No, I want to play Rebecca Ingham." That's going to be the crowning
Good for
achievement.
you.
Yeah.
I just hope it's not like because I got murdered, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But even
you know,
if it did,
if
then
that's the case, then that's the movie.
It's a
Yeah.
good story. Sure,
What's
it'll be.
Well, yeah, I mean, fame's fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Can't ask for when you get it.
So
Yeah, right. Yeah.
you talked about the out of body experience, if you will, the hovering experience when you watched yourself being played. But what about Frank Dryman or your grandfather who you never got to meet? What was that like, seeing them in person?
Oh, okay, so we found him in Arizona. He was extradited up to Montana, and then I meet my family 2 weeks before they have the parole hearing at the Montana State Prison in Deer Lodge. So we have a quick huddle before this parole hearing. I'm elected spokesperson for a family I just met 2 weeks ago, and so we're shuffled in. And I want to tell you, if you've never been or visited a prison, that it's so true. That big clang behind you as you go down the
of the door.
hallways, man, that's intimidating. It just echoes. It's intimidating.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, so we sit. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Clem.
Yeah, it's intimidating. So anyway, so we go in to something very informal. It's an activities room, linoleum on the floor, nothing, folding chairs in a row. In the back are about 3 rows of press from Montana and a bunch of places. And then in the front are 2 folding tables with 3 people sitting behind them, and that's the parole board. And then there's 1 folding chair sitting kind of in the middle of this, and that's for Dryman. So I'm in the front row, and Dryman comes walking in, and he is the littlest, the just nothing person. And I look at him, he's short, and of course, by then he's in his 80s or late 70s. And I look at him, and the first thing popped into my mind is somebody so small, so insignificant, that caused so much pain and heartache that traveled through generations. It just was, that just really got to me. But then I kind of gathered and I stood up, and literally I was close enough behind him, because this wasn't a very big room. I was close enough behind him that if I would have stretched out just a little bit, I could have tapped him on the head while he was sitting in the chair. So anyway, I said my piece, and they put him away, and they had 2 other parole hearings, and I went to those, but it was it just stunned me on just one single event. My grandfather deciding to act like a good Samaritan, picked somebody up in the middle of a snowstorm. This guy losing it when my grandfather got uncomfortable with him, said, "You have to get out here," and then him shooting him in the back 7 times. It just all these things turn on just very small incidents. So,
but watching it being
meeting him was nothing.
Yeah, but watching it being filmed, it's almost like you're there witnessing the whole thing happen.
You bet. And that's the other thing. I mean, like in Great Falls, Dryman spent a lot of time in Great Falls. He spent the summer before, the killer spent the summer before in Great Falls. He worked he worked on Central Avenue at Shell's Townhouse. I don't know, it was a restaurant on Central Avenue. He was at the Civic Center, the courthouse, the same courthouse that we filmed. And so Great Falls. I mean, I'm so happy I grew up there. It's just a great city. You see, I mean, geez, you got the Missouri River and the
Oh,
history behind
yeah.
it, Lewis and Clark, and the Great Falls, and and the Giant Springs, and C.M. Russell Gallery, and of course my high school, uh,
Yep.
and the C.M. Russell High, and all that. So Great Falls is just has a lot to as Montana does. It
Yeah.
just has an awful lot to offer.
So, knowing that the
So
killer did this to your grandfather when he was younger, and then you find him older, is there this mix of emotions that maybe this guy's a different guy? I mean, justice still needs to be served, but you're bringing in the old guy, not the young guy who did it. Did that ever play into any of your inner
you
turmoil?
did. Part of it did because those conversations I told you, Cindy and I had.
Yeah.
Cindy kept saying, "Okay, one, you have this whole family out there. I don't understand why you're not talking to them." And then two was, "What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What's the end point here?" And I said, "I don't know. I really
Yeah.
don't know." But I was literally just being brought into it. And you're quite right. But part of the way I address uh, the parole board was based on how little a victim's family, a victim, and then the ripples it sends to a victim's family when somebody's murdered in such a fashion, and they just seem to be forgotten in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I told the board, I said, "You're going to send a message today." That was, back in 2010. But I said, "You're going to send a message today that if you are clever enough to stay out as a fugitive for 40 years, and then you live long enough and you look sick enough and all that, we're not just going to parole you. We're going to pardon you." Although the original sentence didn't pardon you. And so I am of the mind that you have to serve your time, because the Pellett family was served a lifetime
Yeah.
of heartache. And so, and everybody has a different way of looking at this. I'm not bringing this down from the mountaintops on tablets here.
Right.
I'm just saying this is how I feel. And yes, I understand what you're saying. But there is an interview. You can look it up online. It's an interview that the AP did with Frank Dryman. And during that interview, he said the exact thing that you just said. "Oh, I'm not that person anymore. I'm not that wild-eyed kid that shot that man. I didn't do it. I'm a good guy now. I am a good person. Everything's great. Oh, and by the way, I don't remember the victim's name.
Oh,
I just
man.
completely forgot it." So this isn't this not like this guy was changed,
Right.
in my opinion. And although I did in one of the parole hearings, I stood up and said, "I forgive you, Frank Dryman, not because you deserve it, but I deserve it. I need to
Yeah.
devoid myself from you. So I'm going to let this whole thing go." And again, not terribly spiritual, but kind of worked.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, that's
So
the long answer to your question.
It's a great answer. One last thing that I want to know, kind of almost the little unsung hero that was your cheerleader through this whole thing, your wife, Cindy. That is not an easy
Yes.
role to play in real life, as a wife who's willing to support their husband and have these conversations. Tell me a little bit about your wife. Where'd you meet her? What kind of a sainthood are we looking for her?
Well, that's true. I know. One of the luckiest days of my life is when she said yes. She's very strong. She's She doesn't gloss things over. If she tells you something's good, then it's good. But she won't blow smoke
That's
Yeah.
the
in
kind of partner you
unknown
need. Yeah.
places.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And she is, you're damn right. And she kept me because I got so excited. I mean, I'm finding these things and this is happening. And all of a sudden people are calling me. And I mean, I'm getting calls from Good Morning America and overseas. And I'm excited. This is great. She
Yeah.
says, no, okay, now just slow down a little bit here. Find out what these people want and what's
Yeah.
going on and who are these guys and stuff like that. So, so I'm very fortunate. But throughout the whole thing, she was very tolerant. I spent a lot of time away from the family because I would get so involved in my. All of a sudden, it'd be dawn, and I'd
Oh,
been doing this all night,
Mm.
and so it's. Well, I can't tell you how excited I am that the book comes out tomorrow, the movie comes out in the fall, and I'm going to tell you something. This was not orchestrated. Both of these things were on two separate tracks,
Mhm.
and
and
they're
all of a sudden, and here they are.
perfect
And so I'm
timing.
just very lucky. Yeah, but not designed.
All right, Clem, where
Um,
can people get the book?
Okay, the book can be, you can go on Amazon, you can go on Barnes and Noble. Amazon even it's in the UK. You can any place that you buy books.
Okay.
Certainly at a national chain. I'm going around now. I'm going to be doing a book tour starting off in the High Line, which makes sense because that's where everything
Yeah.
happened. Shelby, Cutbank, Hatter, Fort Benton. I'm trying to line up stuff in bookstores in every major city in Montana now. And so I'm assuming that the smaller bookstores will have it by summertime, but you can get it online at any time. And then just kind of keep watching. I have a website. Is that okay to say?
Yeah, go for it.
A website. Pellett. Remember, Pellett spelled with two T's. Pellett Project, all one word.com.
Perfect.
And then there's also some very skilled people, present company included, that are doing Facebook and Instagram under the Pellet Project. So the website's under Pellet Project, and Facebook and Instagram is under the Pellet Project.
Well, that's
Mhm.
great. And then premiere of the movie. It's going to be a big Hollywood blockbuster. Red carpet.
I hope so.
Uh,
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I'll wear my cowboy boots. That's about all I can tell you from
Perfect.
there. I don't know. I don't know when. I have no idea. And that's another story. Hollywood's so topsy turvy. Used to be your distribution. You go to AMC theaters, they do it, and then you do an overseas distribution, and then that'd be it. Now it's streaming and Peacock and
oh,
Netflix and all this, and may not even get into the theaters.
Mhm.
But I leave that to all the Hollywood people, all the budget stuff, all the business of the
Getting
making
it
a
out.
movie. I'm not that big a part of, and which actually I'm kind of glad. But anyway, yeah.
It's just, I heard a rumor, and maybe we'll have to edit this out, but I heard a rumor that there's going to be a big splash in Shelby when the movie's available. Is that a lie?
I think there's going to be, yes.
Huh?
There is definitely going to be. Yeah, there's definitely going to be. In fact, QT, I think those on the High Line. I think the Roxy Theater is going to open officially
yeah.
Saturday, but you may need to edit that out. This is the second official date I've heard, so I wouldn't count on it specifically. But anyway, yeah. So, but that's the plan right now. And then also in Great Falls, there'll be a big deal.
Mhm.
Well, I'm looking
They'll be
forward.
doing a bunch of stuff.
I'm looking forward to a hometown party
Yeah,
for
that's right.
for the movie.
So am I. Oh,
Or multiple hometown
Yeah.
parties, and then getting
Yeah.
people the opportunity to see your face and maybe even
Mhm.
get that signature on that book.
Yeah.
And you know,
Well,
say they.
oh, and by the way, one other thing about the book.
Okay.
Because my grandfather was forgotten for 40 years, I found that out. I started a foundation
Oh.
for Highline students via the MSU Northern, for Highline students, excuse me, that are pursuing the trades that my grandfather was in on the
Oh.
Highline.
Mm-hmm.
And underlying all of the proceeds from the book will go to that foundation.
Oh,
The
wow.
Clarence Pellett
And
Foundation, right?
so the Clarence Pellett Foundation, again, look on the website or any of the, or call Northern, or at the social media on Facebook or Instagram, and you can get the information. And but all the proceeds from the sales of the book, because the reason I did this was to find out more about my family
Yeah.
Mhm.
and my grandfather, and I don't want him forgotten.
Yeah.
And this is the way I'm going to do it.
I think that's
So
just
there you go.
absolutely amazing,
It's a
Clem.
beautiful legacy you're creating for him.
Well done, sir.
Yeah.
Well
So,
done.
well, I don't know. We'll see.
Well, this
Thanks,
part,
though.
It is
this
well done.
part of the
It is
project.
well done. Yes.
I know you've
Yeah.
got another career left in you, Clem. I don't know what it's.
Yeah,
Race
we'll
car
find out.
driver,
Your next,
Yeah.
right?
bootlegger. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, brain surgeon. I'll figure out.
You're
Yeah,
getting in all
streetcar
these new
conductor. Who
careers.
knows?
Well, thank you so much for spending
Yeah,
the time
thanks,
with
Clem.
us,
Oh,
Clem.
it's been a pleasure.
And
Oh,
we can't wait
lot
to
of fun.
promote the fun party that's going to happen when the movie
Yeah.
premieres and share with our
Hear,
listeners and our people about the book and the story of your grandfather, Clarence Pellett. We are so honored to have gotten the time to visit with you.
Oh,
And
well, yeah, the pleasure's all mine. Seriously.
yeah.
Your interest is incredible. I appreciate it.
Well, we love it. And folks, we hope you enjoyed getting a little bit more of that behind the scenes tease of what's to come with the story about Clarence Pellett and his grandson, Clem. And until we see your bright, smiling, happy, healthy, beautiful faces in our fine city, we do hope you're creating amazing memories with your friends and family wherever they might be. We'll see you soon.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town. Damn, that felt good.